even though it's November 3rd, I do want to add something to the Halloween talk about negative thought forms. For example, the reason haunted houses are haunted is because the base negative experience that one person or two people might have had of, let's say, seeing the ghost, right? I mentioned this a couple talks ago. It will keep showing up to the point where the negative thought form, people trying to freak themselves out or believing the place is haunted, will go to the next level, and it'll be able to tap in to 5D negative entities, which will also, they'll remember, 5D and above, that's spirit living. That's you're highly spiritual, whether you're negative spiritual or positive spiritual, and they'll manipulate these areas around the world that have developed these negative thought forms. It's up to the people to create the layers of negative thought waves that then allow actual 5D entities or above to manipulate it. So and something that came to my mind was famous hotspots like Skinwalker Ranch. That I've watched like 5 minutes of an episode where they send ghost hunters. Ghost hunters are negative. There's nothing positive about people with equipment trying to capture freaky audio recordings, and that's all for entertainment. If it's a show, the show has to entertain. I'm sure a lot of that's theatrics, but I had came across years ago Skinwalker Ranch, right? There's these investigators there with their equipment. Something's buried under, anytime you think of that, anytime you associate any phenomenon in that hotspot with something negative, it's going to, not to get, I'm getting repetitious here, but it'll slowly build it until it's universally known. And once it's known all around the world as being associated with negative paranormal activity, well, then you've just fully activated a grid fragmenter. It's a grid fragmenter that further fragments the consciousness grid, which can be polarized positive for people that understand the 3-point triangle. They understand the male, the feminine, and the merging of the two. The merging of the two is the balancing out of the problem of evil. You can't live in a planet that's totally blissed out. You have to understand what evil is. So, so something like Skinwalker Ranch, that's people want that place to be haunted because that's what makes the entertainment. So that location, again, if you were to tear down everything that's on there, whatever that's, like a house or whatever property that's on that location, build a community center in bright colors and have motivational speakers. I think I've mentioned this before, like people that are just, things to help out the community, activities to help out the community, restructure the whole area, make it nothing but make positive music playing. You could deconstruct Skinwalker Ranch and then populate what should be populated in the hotspot like that, which is an area of grid maintenance. You could shift it around and make it a strong chain link in the consciousness grid. And to continue on, so we're about halfway through the 10-minute clip format, and going back to the Epstein files, I've only said the E word, I think, one time, and that was in the last clip associated with this, but I have to mention it because it's actually bad empathy. It's where there's a generalization surrounding that name in relation to sex trafficking that deters the general public from seeing the bigger picture, which is this has been going on through gangs, cartels, even just rich folk, that are corrupt in Hollywood, what have you, for many years. And the other reason why this is bad empathy and why it needs to be pointed out is that we know that our entertainers are possibly attached to this. Celebrities are attached to this. So if there's any way to confuse someone with bad empathy, it would be going deep down. I'm sure everybody has sympathy and genuine empathy for the victims of Epstein, but I think what's most dominant is the stimulus gratification of the bad empathy associated with celebrities. Like people want to see like Leonardo DiCaprio has been associated with like, I don't get into this that much, but I look into it one time and that's it, with like the Diddy stuff and people like that. I'm sure are paying lots of money to have their information about them associated with Epstein covered up. And I think that's mainly what people want, because they get a special high when they find out that it's a celebrity. And we all know what happens when canceling that person gets involved. The whole mentality of cancellation is a form of bad empathy, and it's a type of echo chamber acting out that's totally unacceptable. Now, you can't live in a functional society if you can't forgive certain people. And I'm not saying you should forgive sex offenders, but they obviously have a mental illness. And instead of wanting them brutally punished or making jokes about their death, you should actually have a type of compassion where you are more so angry at the mental health system and why we can't lock these individuals up immediately regardless of their social standing. It's a breakdown of the mental health care, really, and how we like to play games with what mental health is. Like you can completely manipulate your body, remove body parts, that's fine. But you can do other things that are comparably just as crazy, and that's not taboo, or that's taboo rather. So mental health is a delicate issue in relation to these people that do monstrous things, but the best thing to do is to remove yourself from the symbols like Epstein that really stand for, that makes it questionable as to what is really happening when you find out who's involved. Because it's also a way, I think I said last time, of compartmentalizing the larger picture, where there's a massive trafficking and illegal sex worker, underage sex worker, things like that, situations going on all across the world. And I think also when we like to focus on one man, it helps us try to make sense of something that's hard to make sense of. So to conclude, Epstein is another thing you want to get out of your mind if you're a spiritual worker. You never want to think about it. You never want to think about the wars going on right now. You want to concentrate on things that you can speak out against that are dehumanizing, such as the AI nightmare, or just fallacies of thought, fallacies of arguments. It's always important just to talk about language fallacies. I was lucky enough to be in academia where that was covered in like every class, not even just inter classes, like every class in philosophy, where a certain point that you had to take for a philosophy major covered the fallacies. And I suspect that you can't cover them like we used to, because the fallacies, due to the delicacy of our socioeconomic, our sociological situation, I can only imagine what it's like in academia right now, having to walk on eggshells. But the fallacies, you can see, it's one of the most valuable things to learn, are the fallacies, the language fallacies. And you can see right through the charade. You can see right through things like the Atlas phenomenon, even if it's a Harvard professor. I mean, there are many ways that spiritual intellect bypasses anything that a traditional IQ can process, like that Harvard professor. I mean, anybody spiritual knows it's highly questionable what he's talking